Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Daily Fulham Podcast. My name is Gavin and today we start the build-up to the weekend's game where Fulham are at home to Manchester United. So what better way to do that than by bringing you a crossover special. I have not one, but two special guests joining me from the Daily Manchester United podcast. We have Sam. How are you, Sam?
Good. Yourself?
Not too bad at all. And we also have Dan joining us. How are things?
Yeah, I'm great. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad at all. So let's look ahead to this fixture then, guys. Before we look ahead, let's look back, if we must, I guess, from a Manchester United point of view. This was actually the first game of the season, wasn't it? The first Premier League game of the season, which Manchester United won late on through thanks to a Joshua Zirkzee goal, a rare Joshua Zirkzee goal. At that stage of the season, fast forwarding things five months, we'll start with you, Sam, on this one. Could you have imagined now at this stage that Manchester United would be heading into the reverse fixture 7 points behind Fulham?
No, when you put it like that, definitely not. I mean, as you said, the first game of the season, Old Trafford, once again, it feels like we're always in this position as United fans going into the season, optimistic, hoping like this season can really be the season to sort of kickstart what we're expected to do and challenge for the big major trophies. And at the start of the season, it seemed like we were going to do that. Obviously, Joshua Zirkzee, his debut, got the goal. We got the win. Everyone seems to be on sort of cloud nine. And then fast forward a couple months later, we're sort of back down to reality. And what sort of the expectation at the start of the season has definitely gone down. And as you said, we'll be struggling to challenge for conference league this season, never mind Champions League and where we were hoping to at the start of the season. So yeah, not gone as I think anyone planned this season, and obviously a completely different manager than we had obviously against Fulham in the reverse fixture. So yeah, not the season that we expected, but I'm hoping for a similar result anyway in the reverse leg.
And Dan, I'll come to you for this one. Of course, Manchester United come into this game after that loss at home to Brighton, their third consecutive loss at home to Brighton in the league. Is it a bit worrying now that neutrals, look at that result and think, yeah, I pretty much expected that to happen? Is it worrying that Manchester United have reached that stage where you see those results and like, that's kind of the norm now?
Yeah, it is quite sad to see that, that's kind of the current state of where Manchester United is at right now. However, it was always going to be a tough task for Amarin coming in, in the middle of the season. I think they didn't really give him that much. I think he told them as well that he wanted to come in the summer, and they told him kind of it was now or never, and trying to implement a new style with players who are not really, I don't think, susceptible to play in this, three back system and this, having to run so much system. It was always going to be tough, and like he said when he first got here, that it's going to be tough. Like the teams are going to figure us out, and it's not always going to look the best. And that's why me as a fan, I haven't been too harsh on what I'm seeing. Obviously, the performances are not good enough, but I'm not been too harsh on Amarin and like the rest of the trying to see how this new system works.
And Sammy's comments made major headlines, didn't they, after the game, saying this might be the worst Manchester United team of all time. What do you think he was trying to achieve by saying that?
Yeah, and I mean, we spoke about it on our podcast yesterday about his comments as well, and I said, and I still stick by to an extent my opinion that I had yesterday in terms of he wasn't saying anything new in terms of, I think every United fan knows and the players probably know as well, and everyone around the club know that, yeah, statistically it is the worst season in Man United history. And I think for him to say that, yeah, it might come across as quite brutal and quite brutally honest, but I think he's not really saying anything that we don't already know. But I do think that might and probably will have an impact on some of the individuals in the dressing room. I think as a whole, they should look at themselves and go, yeah, he's not saying anything that's untrue. We haven't been good enough, and statistically wise, we are in a league position that it's been the worst it's ever been at the club. But I do worry in terms of how other individuals in the dressing room might take that and might take his comments and might see that as a bit disrespectful to sort of openly and so honestly tell the press that. I think it's one thing telling the players that in the dressing room, but it's another thing saying it publicly. And going back to your question, I think he is trying to sort of hammer home the seriousness and the weaknesses in the squad at the minute, and I think that's what he's trying to convey, that message. And it's a bit of he's clearly trying to get a sort of brutally honest mentality into some of those players. But as I said, I just worry how some players might take it, and especially the owners as well. That's another thing. Are the owners really going to look at what Amarin said and think, you know what, we brought you in to sort of change the way we were playing at the start of the season. Things haven't gone how we expected, and now you're saying these comments. So I'd also be surprised if the owners haven't sort of brought him in on Monday morning into the office and sat him down and had a few words with him as well. But on the other hand, I get what he's trying to do. So, I mean, the proof's in the pudding, really. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks whether his comments are valid.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dan, Sam made an interesting point up there about some of the individual players in the dressing room, how they would react to comments like that. I think one of the reports that came out was he was in such a rage that furniture was being thrown around the dressing room. There was a lot of shouting and he was in a rage. I think a TV got broken, didn't it? So what do you make of that sort of reaction from the gaffer?
It's rightfully so. I think it's poor. Us as fans, like we're watching the games as well, and I can feel the pain that he's going through, because it's sometimes it's not just about performances. Like, you're watching silly things like Onana making silly mistakes after silly mistake after silly mistake. It's stuff like we're 2-1 down. We could get back in the game. We could get a goal. Who knows? Maybe we could have scammed the result. Who knows? However, you make a silly mistake like that, and then we go 3-1 down. The whole momentum of the game's shifted. It's poor. And to agree with what Sam was saying, I think he did it before the Liverpool game when he said we were in a relegation battle as well, and it got something out of the players. I think they performed for him. They played well. They ran hard, and I think he's just doing the same thing again, where he's saying that this might be the worst Man United squad of all time. He's just trying to get a reaction out of the players, and I think he's smart in what he says. He doesn't do anything. He's not too extreme like a Jose Mourinho, and he's not too shrewd like an Arteta. I think he's quite smart in the way he does his interviews and what he says in his interviews. That in terms of furniture being broken, I can understand it. I'm just as angry as he is.
Absolutely. And Sam, Manchester United, they're obviously not where they want to be in the league and not where fans expect them to be in the league. But they are still in the FA Cup. They had that good result against Arsenal. They are still in the Europa League. They have a big game coming up against Rangers. What do you think the main priority is for the remainder of the season?
Yeah, I mean, and that is the only sort of consolation we have as fans, and as they should have as a squad, really, in terms of we are only halfway through the season. We're still in the FA Cup, we're still in the Europa League, and that is chance to save any glimmer of hope that we have left of this season. In terms of the league, we are where we deserve to be. I've said it all season, and I'll say it again. We are a bang average Premier League team, and until we get players in that are good enough to compete, we are going to stay where it shows in the league. I think as these past weeks have shown, we're going to go into some games and we're going to play well, and we're going to come out of some games and go, you know what, we got a result there, we played pretty well. But then in the following week, we're going to play awfully, and things are going to be like they are against Brighton, where we get dominated and we lose the game. And I think right now that is probably where we are as a team. We win some, we lose some. We're just bang average, and until we get the players that Amarin sees fit and can work in his system, I think that's where we are going to sort of be in terms of a league position. But in the Cups, as I said, there is still some hopes there. Obviously, great result against Arsenal. We've got Leicester in the next round we should expect to win. And then, again, the Europa League's not gone well this season, but we can hope that we sort of get out of the group stage, and who knows where we can go with that. So...
Yeah, I just want to stick with you on this one, Sam, then, because you mentioned about there being average in the league. Of course, they won the FA Cup last season. If Manchester United, for instance, they won the FA Cup again, but maybe finished 15th, what reaction would that sort of be met with?
Yeah, I still don't think it'd be good enough, and I think the reaction throughout United fans wouldn't be good at all. I think we can't sort of settle for just being a cup team now, where we just sack off the league and just go for FA Cups and Europa Leagues and yeah, the FA Cup's good, and it's always good to get a trophy. Get a trophy in. And I think, look, if Amarin came in and won an FA Cup, people would have to give him props for that. But you can't just sack off the league position as bad as it is at the minute. I mean, look, the question you just asked me and the reaction would be different if we won an FA Cup and came seventh or sixth or eighth, for example. But if we're winning an FA Cup and finishing 13th, 14th, 15th, I think that's just inexcusable, and it's just not good enough for where us as a club want to be. So yeah, a bit of positive if we win the FA Cup, even more positivity if we win the Europa League, because obviously that gets us Champions League football. But I mean, for a long term goal, we have to look ahead at the league and see where we can really improve on a weekly basis.
And Dan, one of the frustrations must be that Manchester United, in and amongst the rubbish, have had some decent results. They won the Manchester Derby, they held Liverpool at Anfield, and they won that cup game against Arsenal on penalties despite being down to 10 men for an hour. And I think it's interesting to know what likes of Bruno Fernandes and Sandro Martinez have said about mentality and being easy to get up for those games. So how frustrating is it that they can do that for those games, but they can't apply the same mentality for those more games where there's more of an onus and expectation on them?
Yeah, that's literally it. It's I think it's silly that, when you're playing against Arsenal or a City or a Liverpool, that you think, oh yeah, let's get going. Everyone's all running about, everyone's working hard, everyone's trying to score. Like it's just poor to me, because why is it when we play against lower teams, or we play not lower teams but teams like are Brighton, teams that can play good football, even Southampton, who bottom of the league, before Ahmad turned into Messi, it was poor. Like they were popping us the whole game. They easily could have been 2-3-0 up before Ahmad scored his first goal, and then a little bit of brilliance from Ahmad, and we end up winning the game 3-1. It's just poor that we can't show up against teams that where we have to show the owners, and we have to be the dominant team. We've been saying this since Jose Mourinho. We've been saying this since Ole. It's manager after manager after manager. So when does it become a point? It's not the manager no more. It's the players. And I think that's just the main thing. I think it's some of these players, they need to just take a good look at themselves in the mirror, and they need to be embarrassed with themselves.
Yeah, just last couple of questions before we move on then, guys. And I want to focus on sort of, I don't know, some of the income. It seems like there's a lot of hope when new signings arrive, a lot of expectation on them. But when they move, it almost seems like career suicide. And it seems a graveyard to play your football at Old Trafford. I watched Euro in that game against Southampton. He got absolutely torn to shreds. Albeit he has had an injury, so there's mitigating circumstances there. But why is it that new players come to Manchester United and they just seem a shadow of their former selves?
Yeah, I just think it's a multiple of different things in terms of one, it's a lot of pressure, obviously, coming to Manchester United, and when you're expected to be someone that you're not necessarily ready to be yet. In terms of, we talk about Joshua Zirkzee, I don't think he's ready to be the focal point and the main man for United. But he's come in, and at the start of the season, he was expected to do that job, which I don't think he's ready to do. And we saw, as you just mentioned there, Lenny Yoro against Southampton. He's had some very good games as he's come in, but the kid's only 18. We can't expect him to play week in, week out, especially in the toughest league in the world, and he's going to have games like that against Southampton where he learns something new. And I think that's the same with Almiron as well. He's come from obviously the Portuguese league, and he's still figuring things out on a week-to-week basis. I think when he played Eriksen and Casemiro against Newcastle the other week, he quickly realised, and hopefully he's learned his lesson, where those two can't play in a game like that in the Premier League. So, but I think we should sort of look at the other more senior players and the players who are slightly older, like in terms of the Ananas. Obviously, we mentioned before, he's still very inconsistent. We had Casemiro, who again for that first year he was good. But then you have to look at the recruitment, where why have we been signing players like a Casemiro, like a Varane, who we only get maybe one good season out of them, and then they're on the way out. So I think it's a multiple of different things, whether it be the recruitment has been poor, the players have come into an unsteady ship in terms of manager ingoings and outgoings, and just a mentality and a form based thing where it's going to be so hard for any player right now to join Manchester United and make a real impact to in terms of where we're at right now. So I just think, yeah, we've still got that pull. We're still Manchester United. You still want to play at Old Trafford, and we're still one of the biggest clubs in the world. But right now, we're in such a difficult position that you would think twice about coming to us right now, especially if you're early on in your career as well.
And Dan, I'll just ask this final question to you, and it's concerning Marcus Rashford. What does the future hold for him? Because it seems a bit of a strange situation just looking from the outside. Because when Amram first took over, he looked revitalised. He looked reborn again. He scored in his first couple of games, and then all of a sudden he's out of the picture. Seems like he's surplus to requirements. And now he spoke and he said he wants a future at Manchester United. He's still eager to play. So what is the near and distant future for Marcus Rashford?
I think just like outsiders looking in at us as United fans, we're not too sure what's going on that forefront. However, I've always said it with Rashford that I'm probably one of his biggest fans. However, I think it is time for him to go. Like I think it is time for both Man U to move on and for him to move on for their own for the greater good for both of them. So I've always been, but I just think the way it's been taken, like the way it's gone across over the last couple of weeks, I think it's been handled poorly. It's quite confusing for the fans. We're watching games where like, okay, cool. I'm having to see us bring on Anthony and stuff like that. I'm still confused to the point where like, okay, cool. Why can't Rashford play in these games? Even if you want to sell him, the same way you put Anthony out on loan. Why can't Rashford play in these games? What's the problem? Is there something behind closed doors that we don't know about? So that's the current stage of where I'm at as a fan. But in terms of him having to leave, or I'm not too fussed about that. I think it is time for him to probably find a new home. I think like you said, he wanted a new challenge, and I think it is probably time for him to find a new challenge.
Yeah, and I was just going to add on to that in terms of I feel like there's a lot of feeling, especially from an outside point of view, in terms of from a United point of view, we have maybe some hard feelings towards Rashford or resentment. And I think if you're a true Manchester United fan and you've watched Rashford come through the ranks at United and now obviously it's time for leave, I think you really respect Rashford and you really want him to go out and succeed, just like we did for Scott McTominay. Like it's just an inevitable ending for a player that's not obviously going to get the game time he wants and probably isn't good enough to where we want to be right now. But that doesn't mean we don't want him to go on and have a successful career elsewhere. I think if you're a true Manchester United fan, you want him to go to an AC Milan or a Napoli, just like Scott McTominay's doing, and have a wonderful career. And I think because he's sort of our boy, he's come through the ranks. Of course, we want him to go and do great things. And I think that's where he's at in his career right now.
Interesting stuff. A lot of serious chat today about Manchester United in part one. In part two, we'll lighten the mood just a bit of trivia. But before then, let me tell you about our sponsors. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Right then, guys, let's lift the mood a little bit. I got a bit of trivia for you guys, a little bit of a quiz. No prizes at stake, just a bit of bragging rights. It's concerning both teams, so it's a bit of trivia on Fulham and Manchester United. There's 10 questions in total. The first question I'm going to give you can actually work together for this one, but I'm going to give you a minute to give me answers. There have been 12 players that have represented Fulham and Manchester United in the Premier League. You've got a minute. Can you name as many of those 12 players as possible and just shout them out?
Okay. I've got one straight away, which is Andres Pereira.
Yeah, Andres Pereira.
Berbatov.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think.
Who else? What we got, Dan? What we got?
Some of them are really obscure about it. A couple you won't get, I don't think.
I don't know if he ever played for Fulham. I don't know why he's screaming my name in my head, but I've got Louis Zaha, but I don't think he ever played.
Yeah.
He played for Fulham. Oh wow.
Take that. Right, who else have we got? Who else? your mind sort of goes blank as soon as
Yeah.
you think. Omen and Aaron.
If you didn't remember Louis Saha played for Fulham, you're not going to remember some of these.
Saha, Pereira.
Yeah.
Who else have we got? How many did you say there were?
There's 12.
12.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we definitely should know some.
I'll give you a clue. Legendary goalkeeper.
Legend
Michael.
goalkeeper. I was thinking the other one, maybe like Van der Sar.
Van der Sar?
Edwin
Yeah.
van der Sar. Edwin van der Sar.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
was
Do you
thinking
give
him,
up?
but
Do you give up on the rest? You've got
uh,
4.
how long we got left? How long?
Did
I'll give you another clue. There's one that's a little bit more recent. Welsh international.
Dan James play for
Dan
Fulham?
Jones, yeah,
Yeah,
Dan.
Dan James.
Dan James.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put you out of your misery. So, some of these are really obscure, and to be fair, I wouldn't have got myself. You got David
Overtime.
Healy. David Healy, who played like one game for Manchester United. Timothy Fosu-Mensah. You got Andy Cole, Jonathan Greening, Eric Nevlin, Kieran Richardson, and Chris Smalling. All right, next question. These two sides have met 92 times in all competitions. Can you tell me how many times Manchester United have won?
Oh my god! All right, this is
But
going to be an absolute guess from my point of view. 92 times?
Yeah.
I'm going to hope that United have won more. You would like to think so. I will go fifth. Nah, it'll be more than that. I'll go 63.
63. What are you saying, Dan?
I'll go 67.
So they've actually won 57. So 57
Wow.
United wins, 20 draws, and 15 Fulham wins. In those 92 games, which player has scored the most individual goals in this fixture?
Ooh. See, like an obvious shout would be
Rooney. Like a Rooney, but...
Yeah, but maybe a player who's played for like both, like a Berbatov or something.
true.
Do you know what I mean?
That is true.
But like a Rooney would be a good shout.
What's your final answer?
Or Chris, I remember Cristiano scoring one at Craven Cottage as well. But I'll go. Go on, Dan. You can go first.
I'll go Rooney.
And I'll go. Screw it. I'll go Cristiano. Why not? Longevity.
Imaginary point goes to Dan there because Wayne Rooney is the top scorer in this fixture with 12 goals. Fulham's first game in the Premier League was actually away at Manchester United. This is obviously long before your time, not long before my time, unfortunately. It was in August 2001. What was the score?
So this was, to give you a bit of an insight, a year before, nearly exactly a year before I was born, actually.
Literally same. This is
I didn't need you to say that.
this is literally a year and a month before I was born.
I'll go with 2-0 United.
I'll go 3-1.
So it was 3-2. Any stab at a guess of who might have scored in that game?
2001.
I'll give you a clue. A current Premier League manager.
Current Premier League manager. Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so Ruud van Nistelrooy scored 2 goals. That was his Manchester United debut. David Beckham scored 1, and Fulham's 2 goals were scored by Louis Saha. Edwin van der Sar, as we discussed, played for both clubs. How many league titles did he win at Manchester United?
A lot. Let's go.
I think 5.
You're going 5, Dan?
I'm going to go 5, yeah.
5's not a bad shout, you know. I was going around that region. I'll go... will it be more than 5, though? I'll go 6.
No. It is actually 4, so Dan's closer. 4 Premier League titles for Edwin van der Sar. Hopefully you'll be able to remember this because this is a bit more recent. So these sides met in the FA Cup quarter-final less than 2 years ago. Fulham were leading 1-0, but then things went horribly wrong when they were shown 3 red cards. Who was shown those 3 red cards?
Willian.
Yeah.
I think the manager.
Mitrovic as well.
Was it Mitch? Oh yeah, and the manager, was it not?
Yeah, absolutely correct. Willian was sent off for handball. Mitrovic was sent off for, I don't know, sort of touching the ref, although if that was Bruno Fernandes that did that, he'd probably get a tap on the back. Mitrovic ended up getting an 8-game ban.
When doesn't Mitrovic get sent off?
Oh, he's setting the world alight in Saudi Arabia now, isn't he? Fair play to him. And Marco Silva, he did get sent off as well. Louis Saha, who we've spoken about in this quiz already, who did he score more Premier League goals for?
Everton. Between
out of the two clubs.
Yeah.
I'll go United.
I'll say the opposite. I'll go Fulham. I'll go Fulham.
So Sam is right on this one. He actually scored 26 goals for Fulham and 28 goals for Manchester United. And the final question in this quiz, I don't know what the points are. I don't know who's winning. Who cares? But the final question is about Andres Pereira, who has played for both clubs, currently at Fulham. He has 9 international caps for Brazil. But where was he born?
I thought he was born in Brazil, but by your question, I'm going to assume he's not. I'll go Portugal. Do we have to name the specific city?
No, just the country.
Yeah, I'll go Portugal. Why not?
What are you saying, Dan?
I'll go Spain.
Well, it is in Europe, but it's actually Belgium. He was born in Duffel in Belgium. There we go. Thanks for taking part in our special quiz, guys. Just in the final part, we'll be doing a short, quick preview to this game, looking at some key players and giving our prediction for what might happen. But before we do that, let me point you in the direction of the Global Sports Podcast Network. The Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasts with dedicated daily content for every Premier League team, women's football, fantasy football, and a daily Premier League wrap-up broadcast in 5 different languages. It's your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find GSPN wherever you find your usual podcast. So as we've touched on, Manchester United do come into this game 7 points behind Fulham. Fulham looking secure in mid-table, will have their eyes on Europe if things go well, if they can string another win together here to go with the one they had against Leicester. I don't know about you boys, but I feel like Fulham go into this game as favourites, maybe for the first time ever in the Premier League against Manchester United. How do you feel about
that? Me personally, I think as United, I think even when they'll talk about it before the game, I feel like they'll still always be favoured to win games against teams that are supposedly smaller than them, in the grand scheme of the Premier League. However, in terms of form and how it's looking right now, yeah, Fulham are probably favoured to win the game, especially it being at home. United haven't won a game in about 6 games, other than the Southampton game. So yeah, I think in terms of form, Fulham probably are favoured to win. But in the grand scheme of things, I think Man U, the players, the fans, I think we should all go into the game thinking that we should be winning this game.
Yeah, and I probably share the same opinion as Dan in terms of, I mean, look, we should go into most games thinking we're favourite, but if we're being realistic off this season, I think it'll be a struggle for United. I really do. Away at Craven Cottage, as you said, Fulham are coming off the back of that good win against Leicester. Look, it'll be tough, and it again with United, as I've said on previous podcasts, you just never know what you're going to get. It could either be amazing one week or terrible the next week, and you just never know. And that's the thing. I mean, look, United could be favourites going into it, maybe not. But I think it will. If we are to get any points from Craven Cottage, I really think, well, for a start, we're definitely going to have to play a lot better than we did against Brighton. That's for sure. And secondly, I just think we're going to have to really fight it out and dog out a performance against Fulham, because you guys are not going to make it easy for us. So, yeah, it'll be a tight game, I think.
Yeah, United obviously have a big game before this on Thursday night against Rangers. Do you think the makeup of the team is likely to be similar to that, or do you expect multiple changes?
I think,
yeah, go on, Dan.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be similar. I think it's got to the point where Amarin's probably found not his best 11, but his certain players that he can, interchange between. Obviously, he interchanges between the strikers with Hoyland and Xerxes. Some days Hoyland plays, some days Xerxes plays. But other than that, realistically, I think he has his solid base of what he has, and I think that's probably what we're going to see throughout the majority of the season. I think when he first came in, there was a lot of chopping and change and trying to find, who works in the system and who doesn't. But I think he's finally got to that point. So I think it'll probably be the same, around the same similar teams on Thursday and on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, as well. I just want to add to that. He's starting to get there in terms of his best 11, and he's starting to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But what I will say is, if we go into that Fulham game not getting a result against Rangers and being in the headlines again of having a poor result at Old Trafford against Rangers, which by itself won't be an easy game whatsoever. I'm sure Rangers are going to bring a lot of fans and going to make it a tough night for United. But what I will say, if we go into that game against Fulham, coming off the back of a loss against Rangers, I mean, I'm about to lose all hope with the game on Sunday. So that's what I will say. Depending on how the result goes on Thursday, I think can tell a lot. Depending on how the result's going to go on Sunday. So.
And just looking at the Fulham team, who are you guys particularly wary of? Who are the danger men you see from a Manchester United point of view, where you're a little bit, ooh, if he has a good game, we could be in trouble here?
Yeah, I mean, I know Harry Wilson. He's started to pick up a bit of form in recent games. I do like your attack. You obviously have Jimenez going forward as well. I just think you're very solid all over. I think if there maybe is an area of weakness, but then again, you've got Robinson at the back. Is maybe we can get at your defence, but then again, you've got Robertson. Leno, I'm not sure about Leno. I saw his mistake the other week. I forgot who that was against, but yeah, I mean, yeah, going forward, I think you can pose a real threat with Smith Rowe, Iwobi, Reece Nelson, Harry Wilson. You've recruited very well, I think, Fulham over the past couple of seasons, relatively well, going in for these almost youngsters that have been rejected from top six sides, and I think you've done absolutely wonders. And in terms of Marco Silva, I really like Marco Silva. I think he's doing a great job for you guys, and he's steadied the ship pretty well. So yeah, it'll be a tough game.
No, yeah, I agree with what Sam said as well. I think your team's pretty strong all around the pitch. I think Calvin Bassey and Anderson in that back line, they've been very good all season. Robertson, every time I watch him play, he's just quality. I think he's one of the best left backs in the league right now. He's just quality. And then yeah, the magnitude of players you guys have in attack with Iwobi, Harry Wilson, Smith Rowe, Jimenez, even Rodrigo Muniz at the start of the season. There's a magnitude of players that you guys have, and you can chop and change. I think your team's quite exciting. Every time I watch you guys play, it is quite exciting to watch.
Yeah, totally agree, especially with what you said there about Anthony Robinson. I echo the sentiments. I think he has been the best performing left back in the league this season. I know Manchester United have had their issues in that problem in that particular area, haven't they? With Luke Shaw injury prone, and Malacia, well, he's injury prone as well, so he could be doing a good job for Manchester United. But then again, players go to Manchester United and they fall off a cliff, don't they? So hopefully, from a Fulham point of view, he stays firmly at Fulham, despite obviously interest from elsewhere, other clubs likes of Liverpool. Just finally, then let's end things with a score prediction. How do we see this game going?
Dan, after you, I'll let you go first with this one.
As a United fan, I feel like I'm always an optimist. I'll be optimistic, and I'll say I think we could probably win the game 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, same. I think we can win the game. Whether I think we will win the game, I'll go more conservative. I'll go a 1-1.
Yeah, well, this is a funny one for me because Fulham have struggled at times against bottom half table teams. That's why the result on the weekend against Leicester came as a bit of a relief. Because previously, I'm not comparing Manchester United with these sorts of teams like Southampton and Ipswich, but Fulham have drawn games at home to Southampton and Ipswich. And I think they have struggled against teams that play in a low block. Manchester United obviously won't play like that. They won't play like that against Fulham, whereas they might play at the Etihad or at Anfield, something like that. So I think that will work in Fulham's favour, where they have struggled to break down that sort of defence. The fear for Fulham fans, I guess, is that Manchester United are coming into this game with such a low ebb, such a bad feeling about them, that they just feel it's destiny that Manchester United are going to come away with a win. Probably like Bruno Fernandes pop up in the 89th minute with a deflected goal, something like that. But I think the way Fulham are playing, and I think the disappointment looking at the table, they're 10th to a lot of people. People will be thinking, that's a really good season for Fulham. They've only lost 5 games, but Marco Silva's expressed this many times in interviews how he feels the team should actually be doing better. And they've thrown away more points from winning positions than any other team in the league. And you look at the likes of Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, how they're doing. There'll probably be a bit of jealousy in Fulham, thinking the way games have gone, we should be up there really. But just going back to the game, I think it is a good time to play against Manchester United because, unlike the game in the early season, I thought it was I thought Manchester United looked a lot better in that game at Old Trafford because they were harder to play against. Whereas towards the end of last season, they were just gifting so many shots to opposition on goals, but they looked a little tighter as a unit, and obviously that's not been the case this season. So I'm going to go for a Fulham 2-1 victory, but, as I said, given past results, past meetings, it wouldn't surprise me if Bruno Fernandes pops up with a late winner there. That'll do it for this crossover episode. Many thanks to Dan and to Sam for joining me from the Daily Manchester United team. Be sure to catch their podcast. Be sure to follow our podcast, the Daily Fulham Podcast. As we continue the build-up to the Manchester United game, I'll be giving you a preview looking ahead to this game on Sunday. That's it for now. We'll catch you all next time.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.